NelsonJoypad.com bring you another original. It's fucking great.
The Evil Within had somewhat mixed reviews when it was released. The most recent brainchild and creation of Shinji Mikami seemed to polarise gamers across the globe. Our own chief editor at Mouse and Joypad gave the game a perfectly respectable 81%, but complained that while it was a frightful, intense game, it struggled with its own identity. It was with this thought and a sense of wary expectation that I cautiously crawled my way into the Evil Within's first DLC pack, The Assignment. The Assignment throws you into the high-heeled shoes of Julie Kidman, the notoriously unreliable partner of Sebastian from the main game. The aim of the DLC is to fill in some of the gaps with the story from Kidman's perspective, and the evil undertones of experimentation and mutation that Shinji Mikami favours are never far away. Kidman's story isn't an engrossing one. In fact, in my playthrough, I was bored for most of the story sections. There are some nice touches, like a faceless man in black issuing you with orders, and the traditional horror tropes of trying to screw with your mind, but on a whole, I was completely underwhelmed. This is only the first of Bethesda's DLC plans, and it's clear that the story will continue in The Consequence, but I'm finding it hard to summon up the energy to really care. I completed the assignment in 164 minutes. That's 2 hours and 44 minutes total. In that time, I died on 13 occasions. It's not as bad as some of the time I spent with Evil Within, but it still works out as a lot of time watching my dismembered, exploded or impaled corpse, not a whole hell of a lot of gameplay. With that said, I didn't explore the environment that much and there are still secrets that I haven't found, so if you're a completionist, it's going to add some time onto the experience, and maybe a few more deaths. The Assignment felt like an entirely different game to me, not helping the Evil Within's already schizophrenic identity. The biggest difference that you're likely to see in the gameplay is, well, the gameplay overall, I suppose. In the Assignment you're unarmed. Apart from one short set piece, all you'll have is a flashlight. Now I have to give the Assignment its dues on that. The flashlight mechanic does add an excellently thrilling layer for a short section of the game. There are secret passageways, objects and all kinds of interests that can only be seen after focusing your flashlight on them. In one section of the game the enemies are invisible and you can only see them when they cross the beam of your torch. It really added a harrowing element that's present throughout the game proper. Unfortunately this section was short-lived and the Assignment soon became a lesson in frustration. Kidman goes through almost all of the Assignment completely unarmed, and while you never had enough ammo in the main game to blast your way through levels, you were able to survive a single enemy spotting you. Not so in the Assignment. Without the ability to upgrade Kidman, if you're seen, you will likely die pretty damn quick. Avoiding enemies that would be easily dispatched with a couple of handgun rounds or a bolt from your agony crossbow becomes tiresome in the extreme. The mechanics are solid enough and there were no glitches to speak of, but as I hunkered down behind plant pots, tables and desks, there was no sense of fear. I knew that if I was seen, that I would die, and that's the end of it, with no hope of surviving one of these encounters. There was no reason for me to feel tense. I would die, load the checkpoint, and then try again. You'll find that most of the decisions in the Assignment are tactical ones that are made not through the adrenaline of a near miss, but calculated so that you can reach the exit. You're still able to pick up bottles to distract enemies, and this will be the extent of your options. Enemies can be lured while in cover, although with the slow moving Kidman, if there's not a trap to lure an enemy into, it will likely see you having to reload the last checkpoint. There are a handful of axes to pick up that can be used to stealth kill an enemy, although there's no freedom of the choices that you have. If there's an axe lying around, then there will likely be an enemy that is destined for it. Some enemies won't be lured away from the door that you need to go through, and these enemies are in need of a savage chopping. It all felt very restrictive. The Assignment stands out as more of a puzzle game, one where combat isn't even an option. But in choosing this path, it loses the vitality and the life that the Evil Within had, jumbled and twisted though it may have been. Using distractions like calling a telephone to lure an enemy into a sealable room was a nice touch from Bethesda, but it all felt scripted or preordained. There's a set way to play the Assignment, and to deviate from it is to die. That should be a chilling thought, but I found it hard to muster more than a weary sigh when I should have been screaming. The assignment builds on the story of The Evil Within and sets up the second DLC package, The Consequence, nicely. It's a very slow gameplay experience and it lacks the adrenaline-fueled escapes and the harrowing moments from its parent game. The flashlight mechanic does shine in one small section of the game, but ultimately it was a dull and frustrating 3 hours of gameplay that completely failed to incorporate any of the elements that made The Evil Within a good horror game.
We should go.